Hey everyone, welcome back to the broadcast. Long time no chat. If this is your first time joining the channel, please feel free to like, subscribe, or share. It definitely helps. So, this is episode 14. Well, I thought episode 14 was going to be an interview. Technically, it was supposed to be. We had a little bit of issue this weekend when we were doing our interview, if you will. We conducted this really great interview. It turned out so good. But the problem was the facility that we were conducting the interview in was picking up some static on the microphone. So I'm still kind of editing that back together to see if I can't remove some of that. If anyone knows how to remove that, please reach out to me. I would love to get a hand with that since I'm so junior, I guess, when it comes to audio editing and things like that. Most of the time I just throw up the raw clip and I'm like, you guys will deal with it. But I digress. So today's episode is going to be pretty cool. We're going to be talking about my weekend, some of the things that went down, and then also we're going to talk about being prepared and adaptability. So without further ado, let's get into it and we will chat from here. So this weekend I went to go visit my brother. It was his birthday. I think you guys know that already. And it was pretty cool. We visited Virginia Beach down there, and it was pretty awesome place. Like, the whole city's changing. It's kind of cool to see the city evolving and growing over time. It used to be this place that was pretty much a tourist destination, and you could only go there if you were a tourist, or at least, well, most of the folks that went there were tourists, if you will, and then the normal local population was kind of filled with people that primarily were in the military, pretty much. So it was a weird city in that a lot of people were transient, and it felt a lot smaller than it was, even though it's like one of those places where you can drive for like an hour without hitting the end, going like 60 miles an hour. So it's kind of crazy. That's at least how it feels to me. But it's cool because you're seeing these mini communities evolve in Virginia Beach that are kind of growing in the arts, and that's what you see in areas that are about to blossom and grow. They have this new district called the Vibe District. Pharrell bought some property there. That's pretty cool. I might have bought that rooftop myself. I was looking at it actually. I found out I think he paid like $750,000 for like a flat that was like 1,200 square feet or something in Virginia Beach in this new Vibe District above this really awesome sushi and ramen bar. It's really cool place. And so they had this place called the Flea Market, which just opened. It was like this pop-up spot. It was very, very cool. So many people there were just selling stuff. They were serving alcohol. They had like a rooftop DJ. They had this restaurant that was serving really great food. It was awesome. Surprising enough to see Virginia Beach growing like that is neat, because the people right now that are there are not catering to the tourists. This wasn't something that was open to the public, in a sense that it was open to the public, but they wouldn't have known about it, right? Generally. And so it's cool to see places like this evolve, because then you're starting to get your own community. And where I see this going in the next 5 years, if they keep it up, is it's going to be big. And I think Virginia Beach is going to be changing for the better. They're cleaning up a lot of this places at the ocean front, which are basically tourist traps. They're kind of shutting them down, and I think this is some of the things that you're seeing COVID actually help with, right? Is there's a lot of places that haven't been so successful, and you're seeing this great movement from basically a lot of these businesses that are starting to close, and they're going away, and obviously there's some really good ones that are being affected. But there's some really shitty businesses as well that are just kind of closing up, and it's nice to see them go, because that opens up the opportunity for something better to come in there, right? So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You have to balance the good with the bad, if that. Oh wow, so if you're watching on YouTube, I guess you noticed the really awesome haircut. Thanks, Raquel. She keeps me looking fresh. It's my hairstylist. She suggested the fade today, and I think I went with it. I'm digging it. But I digress. So anyways, yeah, Virginia Beach was super fun. It was like they had this big bonfire out there. They got all these cool local coffee shops, a bunch of distilleries now. Highly recommend you check it out. Stay off the ocean front. That's just a tourist trap. But a couple streets back, you start getting the local places, right? Like, there's this place called Aloha Snacks, which does like Hawaiian food, but all the ingredients are flown in exactly from where they're from, so you're getting like the freshest fish possible. It's super cool. It's developing like this really tiny LA feel, and it's kind of coming to Virginia Beach. I like it. It's good vibes, right? So that was this weekend. Went out to see a lot of friends, had a lot of fun. The trip back to the DC area was hell. There was so much traffic. I hate making that drive up 95. I don't know if any of you guys have as well, but it's a pain in the ass. It's a total pain in the ass. If you ever travel south and you're on 95, the best time to travel is at exactly 5 o'clock in the morning, because you pass the military traffic, you pass the non-military traffic, which hits about an hour later, and you don't get bogged down around Williamsburg. So if you're traveling anywhere around Virginia Beach, past Richmond, up to the DC area, promise me, 5 o'clock, that's when you gotta leave, because if you leave a little bit later, you're screwed. If you leave a little bit earlier, you're screwed, because you get hit by those bouts of traffic, right? So that's the timing. And that's taken years to figure it out, but it works. It's pretty cool. Check it out. So anyways, that's kind of my weekend, if you will. Had a lot of fun, feeling a lot relaxed, actually getting prepared to take a trip tomorrow. I'm actually going to the mountains for several days to just kind of decompress and relax. So if I don't get a cast in tomorrow, you can look forward to one coming very shortly next week. Monday would be my next one. Or, if I have a chance to get back earlier, we'll see what we can do about this weekend to get a few more in. Sorry about missing those. But back to what we're talking about, and talking about the main subject of today's video and or podcast, depending upon where you listen. So today's video is about being prepared and adaptability. These are some of the most important things that I find can really take someone from being a mediocre person to being someone who has their shit together, for lack of a better term. Most of the time, I see myself as someone who is prepared. I generally try to have a game plan for a lot of things. I generally try to have a lot of different scenarios already played out in my head, so if things come to pass, I'm prepared, if you will, for the consequences of doing something or not doing something. But being prepared, I learned a big lesson this weekend, and it was the issue with the audio. So I bought this brand new microphone you can see in front of me. Great mic. It's a Blue Yeti. Love it. About $189. And I've never had a single issue with it. It's wonderful. Now, when I got into the interview, it started making this clicking noise, and it was really weird. I was like, this is so weird. I've never had an issue with it. I really need to figure out what's going on. So my buddy and I were just testing, and we thought we figured out how to fix it, but we couldn't get it fixed. So we decided to just go forward with the interview and, figure out where we are, and I figure we'll do another one if we get a chance. Otherwise, we'll, just try to cut it up. And the problem was, for me, I always give myself advice that think about what the worst could happen, and then make sure you're comfortable with the outcome of that, right? So, knowing that this was my first interview, I was thinking about possibly bringing a backup microphone or something else to see what might happen if this microphone failed. But I thought, there's no way this is going to happen, because it's like, this is something that's never happened before. This is such a new item. It's well built. I've never had an issue with it. The chances are so slim. And it's like, every time something important comes, I don't know if this is a lull or something like that, but I feel like things go wrong, and I had to eat a little bit of humble pie, because I was like, crap, I don't have my microphone. I'm taking up someone's time who's graciously giving me theirs, and I just wasn't ready. And so now it's like, I had to remind myself that instead of just assuming everything's always going to be okay, that it's important to be prepared for alternate things that will come up, alternate possibilities that will happen. I think a lot of times we blind ourselves to the potential of things to go sour, and that is okay for a lot of the time, because the implications of things going wrong generally aren't that bad. But sometimes when it's a critical time, or when you have a very low tolerance rate for failure, if things go wrong, they can go wrong really bad and really fast. And then it's like, that's when you need that backup solution. And, you can't let your hubris kind of get in the way of preparing, thinking, oh, you know what, I know best. I can beat reality. When it's like, yeah, there's a high probability that everything will generally go well. But it's also like, if it doesn't, then what? And that's the question, that's the important one, right? It's like, it's not about always having a solution to something, but it's about quickly running through your mind, can you accept the consequences of this not working properly? And that can definitely keep you from failing early, and it can also keep you from falling apart if things do go wrong. You can say to yourself, hey, I've already figured out that this is a possibility, and I've prepared for it, at least mentally, maybe not through a potential solution, but I at least know that this was an option that might happen, and therefore it's not as bad, which would lead you into the more important piece, which is being adaptable, right? So on one side of the coin, you have being prepared for things, and then the other side of the coin, you have being adaptable. And what adaptable really means is to, take a situation, take a scenario, and find a different way to solve that than might be normal, right? People that are adaptable are, in my opinion, some of the smartest people I've ever met in my entire life. You can kind of take them and drop them wherever they are, and they'll do well in pretty much every scenario, in every place, different parts of their life. And it's a very cool trait to have. I think adaptability is something that I rank even higher than, being prepared, because it's like, at the end of the day, you can never be prepared for everything. But if you're someone who's adaptable, you can at least understand that there's a different way that you may be aware of, or you may not be aware of. But if things go wrong, you can at least get around it some other way, right? And that can bring a lot of good things to you. That can bring a lot of confidence to a person. That can bring a lot of peace of mind, which is super important. It can keep people level set if you're in a large group and things go wrong, and maybe you're with someone who's super adaptable, and it's like, they're the ones who are not worried. They're the ones who are calm under pressure. They're the ones who may not have seen it all, but are willing to accept the consequences and roll with them. And maybe that's really a big part of it too, is when you're adaptable, it goes so close to being hand in hand with someone who's always prepared, that you accept the consequences of failure a lot of times. That's a tough one. I don't know many people that really are able to accept those consequences, because failing in life is something that is so chastised in modern society that people are afraid to do it. They're afraid to allow themselves to not be right. Everyone's trying to be right, and it's like everyone takes this personal hit to their ego or who they are if they're not right. And these people that you find that are adaptable, those are the ones you want on your team. Those are the people that are going to bring the centralized understanding that everything's going to be okay to a project or a company. Those are the people in your friend group that are going to have an answer when things don't go right, and it doesn't have to be, catastrophic all the time. If you're just looking for dinner in a group of friends, and you plan to go to a place, maybe it's closed down, maybe it's booked up, maybe it's full. Well, maybe that adaptable person has like 7 other options you guys could do. and they're fine flowing with them as well, because it's like, you see these people that are really non-adaptable, and you find that they a lot of times have a very short fuse, because they have problems when things don't go their way, when things are not always aligned to what they're doing. And you put them in a room with an adaptable person, and you can almost watch them fight mentally, or just through the various things that they suggest or how they talk. And it's hard for them to get along a lot of times, because you have someone on one side that kind of maybe is more relaxed, maybe goes through life more calm, and then you generally find people that are always trying to prepare for something, or think that they're so right they'll never get anything wrong, to be generally high-strung or tense, or they have something going on. So I think these are traits that are important to emulate, and you don't have to have a solution for everything, again. And it's not like you should always be calm. I mean, it's very hard to do. These are not easy things to do. When things go bad, it's so difficult to be calm and to understand that there's another way around it. This is a big part of it, right? Like, if you're someone who's adaptable, you're essentially making the claim that I know of an alternate solution, that it exists, but I don't know what it is. And that's a tough claim to make. That's a real tough claim to make, because you're betting that you can find a reality that you don't inherently know exists, but you believe it does. Now think about that for a second. That's kind of crazy. People that are like that, they're very cool to be around. They're generally not worried about a lot of things, and you see them being incredibly successful. These are the people that are generally running companies and things like that, because it's like you get to a level, and the stakes get higher and higher and higher. And as the stakes get higher, the margin of error decreases and decreases and decreases and decreases, until you get to a point where everything you do is such high stakes that it's not even trying to not make a mistake. Everything you do will make some form of a mistake. It will hurt some group. It will disrupt some area, mess up some person. And when you're at that level, you're trying to do the least of that, and that's the goal, And that's how they build this understanding of what adaptability is, because they're like, what is the best way to cause the least amount of harm? Kind of crazy. You see people like this in positions in the military, where it's like, if you're fighting the enemy, they have to make very tough decisions. They have to make decisions that are, what is the least amount of casualties? And that's crazy. Like, that's not something I could ever do, and that's just one thing. People that are in positions in the government that are dealing with catastrophic events, such as like floods, hurricanes, fires, many other things. Like the folks at FEMA, they have a tough job to do, because they have a very limited amount of supplies and a very high amount of need. And it's like, if you give supplies to someone over here, then on the other side someone else is going to suffer. They're not going to get what's needed, so they have to make those decisions. They have to find different ways around a problem. So if you know someone like this, and you have an issue that you are maybe working through in your own life, throw it to them. I find that the way they approach problems a lot of times is agnostic to what they believe is right all the time, and more aligned to what they believe is possible. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times people that are adaptable, they don't always select the best solution that they find to be the right answer that they believe in, but the answer that is most likely to occur. Kind of interesting. So find someone like this, and utilize them if you can. They're really cool people to chat with, and you can learn to build this skill on your own. You can learn to prepare for things. You can learn to be adaptable, but it takes time. And the only way you build that is by realizing that when something goes wrong, it's not the end of the world. Taking a second to take a step back and say, hey, everything's going to be okay. I'm still here. I'm still alive, which means I can still choose a different approach. I can still move in a different direction. I can still make things better from where I am. Because if you can't get to a point where you can see the reality around you, then you can't improve that skill, because you'll never be able to admit that you can make things better. It'll just be other people doing it for you, and that's not good. That doesn't help anyone. It most certainly doesn't help you. So that's it, really. It's a way of living your life that you should practice, and you should learn to grow, and you should learn how to emulate from others. And if the best way to do that sometimes is to find someone who can do that really well and see what they're about, maybe learn from them, ask them a few questions, and if you're a company, or if you want to bring them into your friend group, do that, because you're probably going to be better off for doing that. So in an event to close this up, get this editing knocked out so that I can possibly get a different cast done tomorrow morning and start packing for my trip, we'll close out the broadcast today. I had a lot of fun doing this. If you get a chance, please like, subscribe, share. Again, this definitely helps. Love you guys, and I will see you later. Peace.